Hey guys, I'm going to be back a little bit farther today because I'm going to show you guys how I tie my different kinds of scarves. Something I get asked a lot, I mean not recently because I've been wearing scarves yet, but pretty soon here. I love my scarves, especially for layering. It just gives a really fun effect. And so I thought it might be helpful if I showed you guys how I do it, because almost every time I wear one I get asked how to do it, and it's a really hard thing to explain. It's a lot easier to show you. So that's what I'm going to do. Today I'll start with the blanket scarf. This is really popular. It was last year and it is again this year. And it's called blanket scarf because it's literally like the size of a blanket. Like, I mean, this is one of the ways that you can wear it, is like this. So I got this one from Leopard and Latte boutique online. She's really great. I'll link her boutique and this scarf at the bottom in the comments section or in the description. And these are only $35 and they're really great. I saw that Zara has theirs back again this year, which is kind of where I think it all started last year. And I think they start at like 50. And I went in because I thought, okay, this year I want to like have, maybe I want to like actually buy the Zara scarf. But yeah, it starts like 50 and then goes up, and it's really heavy. It's a lot thicker than this. And I think you'll see when it comes to styling these, the tricky part is how big it is. And so the thinner it is, really the better, because then you can get all the volume from it without kind of like it swallowing you, literally. So this one's super soft. So it's not real wool. I mean, I've actually thrifted some like vintage ones, but I can't handle wool like right next to my skin. So I always have to like layer something underneath it. So this is like really soft. So that's great. Anyways, so the basic way that I start with this is I just gather it up in my hands. And you'll kind of see a theme here with like all the different scarves. I have 4 different shapes that I'm going to show you. And you'll see kind of a pattern in how I style them. They're all kind of a basic like pretzel or like roll. So, but with the different shapes, they end up looking a little bit different. So I'll show them all to you. But so you always want to start, instead of starting it back here, which I think a lot of people do, I always start here and then go around, because then it creates this cowl here in the front. So I kind of start there, and then as you'll see, so I kind of wrap this around the back, and you'll see this tail part here. I kind of grab out here, and I take this and I pull it through. So this part's coming down and this part's coming out. And that's pretty much the basic, like, how I would wear majority of scarves. And I believe it's called the pretzel. But yeah, it's great. It's because it kind of pulls it together a little bit more. And I like to wear it over to the side. You can also wear it in the front here too. I like to kind of pull on mine because I don't like it to be like too much in my face. And sometimes I wore a blazer just so I could kind of show you. That's how I end up using my scarves, is kind of over blazers, as like, especially with the blanket scarf, as a way to not have to wear a coat. Like it really does work as far as keeping you warm. Anyway, so that's kind of the basic. But then the fun thing with the blanket scarf is that you can play around with it. Sometimes I don't always do that classic shape. I'll kind of start out with it a little bit more open, if that makes sense, not as gathered, and kind of drape it. If I kind of want it to be a bit, and then, you just kind of tuck the ends, or you can tuck this, but just tuck it straight down instead of pulling it through. And then it kind of opens up a little bit more. So really, I mean, the key with this is just you have to play around with it. and always start with it in the front and come around. Because if you start with it here, you end up with the ends behind you, and I don't know, that doesn't ever really make sense to me, because I think the ends is kind of what gives it that interesting texture and kind of unexpectedness in the front. So another way you can wear this is if you kind of twist it in itself. This is kind of if you want it to be maybe like a little bit smaller, like not as bulky. You kind of just wrap it around itself, if that makes sense. And then it's just like a little bit more compact, and isn't really going to come undone. So you have to somewhat expect that it's going to come undone at a certain point, and that you're going to have to take it off. But it's kind of good to know the basic shape of it. So that's the blanket scarf. Next up is just the basic rectangle scarf. So it's much longer than it is wide, and usually has like the tassels on the end. So I also do this one just like the blanket scarf in the pretzel. So you pull this through here, and I pull it over to the side a lot of times. I'll fan it out, or you can wear it down the middle. I don't know if you guys can see or not, but it kind of, it looks good, especially under a coat or with a blazer. But my tip with these is, like, I just don't think there's ever a need to have an infinity scarf. That's because with these, you just tie it in a knot at the end, and it makes it into an infinity scarf. Because my issue with the infinity scarf is that it's just a one-trick pony. Like, you can only ever wear it that one way. And if that's all you ever want to wear it, then maybe it makes life easier because you don't have to tie. But I kind of like to have the option of doing different things with it. And if I want it to be an infinity scarf, then I just tie the ends into a knot. You put the knot in the back of the head and the back of the neck. So with this one, you do start in the back, and then you just loop it like this. And you cover this up, cover the knot in the back up with the other part of the scarf. And then there you go. So I don't know, that's kind of my thing about infinity scarves. Like, I don't necessarily see the point in them unless you're only going to wear your scarf that one way. So yeah, so this is kind of the basic scarf shape, I feel like, that you're going to find. So I feel like those two things are the things I use the most, the pretzel and then to tie it in the infinity. So the other one I have is a square scarf. These are really, like, I find a lot of these in the thrift stores because they are vintage. They don't really make them square much anymore. So these, it has to be a big enough square. The thing with this is you'll find a lot of them that are like this big, and that's not ever really going to work because you can't wrap that around your neck. Those work great tied on purses or things like that, but or in your hair maybe. But if you ever find a big square scarf like this, here's how I end up using it. So you fold it in half and take the longest part, and again you start in the front and you tie around. So it kind of makes it into a bandana. Sometimes I just leave it like that. If it's plaid, it will look like a bandana. It might look a little country, just warning you. But with some of these kind of vintage prints or florals, it's really, even though it's in a bandana shape, it's going to look pretty and not necessarily reference like cowboy, if that makes sense. So you can I just kind of tuck the ends under. But then another thing that I do with this is I also do the pretzel with this one. So it's a little bit shorter, so you're not going to have as much of ends on it, but it will kind of give it a little bit more interesting layering here, like, and then over to the side. I wear a lot of times over to the side. That makes sense. So that's the basic way I wear a square. Because there's not a lot of other ways you can do it unless you're putting it in your hair. This is also a way you can wear it, but it's very preppy, which, I mean, I love sometimes, but you use that kind of you fold it in the same way, and you kind of just drape it over the top of your blazer. Like, I don't know, some of you might remember, like, your grandma's wearing it like that. So I think depending on what the pattern is, it can be really cool and give like a layered effect without it being too hot or too overwhelming, especially with these thinner fabrics. So, and then the last one I have is just a really long skinny rectangle. So this one is a fun like pattern on it, but I also have this in like black, or plain colors or plaid or whatever. But a fun thing to do with these, I mean, the basic thing that you do with this is wear it like this. This is very like menswear kind of inspired, and you kind of wear it under your blazer to kind of give kind of texture and color to your face. Sometimes I'll do that, and even with just the long skinny scarves, I'll do that under my coats, my winter coats. I tie my scarves like that a lot because it's just really classic and feminine. But another feminine way to wear a scarf like this, as long as it's long enough and thin enough, you take it, and so you start in the back, unlike the other ways. I'm going to get a little bit closer for you guys so you can see this. You take it, let's see, and you're going to want the top one. Sorry, I'm going to start over. So you're going to want whatever one that you're doing on the top. So this one is going to be a little bit longer than the bottom one. And then you're going to take it up, kind of like, it's a lot like a bow tie. It's a little bit kind of like an upside down bow tie, I guess, if you know how to tie a bow tie. If you don't, you should learn, because honestly, I don't know, the boys beat us to it. Like, they know how to tie their bows better than we do sometimes. So, so yeah, I like to do these into a bow, and then you kind of fan out the ends, or like the bow part here to kind of, yeah, and then I wear mine over to the side, but you can also wear it down the middle. It's just a fun way to wear your scarf really feminine and pretty. Like, I'll wear this over a dress or with a dress coat. So yeah, that is kind of my spiel about my scarves and how I tie them. Hopefully it made sense and I didn't talk too fast and you guys were able to see it. If not, maybe I'll have to redo this. But again, I love hearing from you guys and hearing what you think, and if there's anything else that you think would be helpful for me to show in video form and explain some things, I'm happy to do that. So I'm totally open to suggestions. But thanks again. You guys are great, and I will see you again soon. Okay.